Domestic violence killers to face tougher sentencing as the government presses ahead with plans to halve violence against women and girls. The Law Commission is also going to carry out a wider review of homicide law and sentencing in recognition of concerns about inconsistencies perceived within the criminal justice system. Well, let's bring in our political correspondent, Amanda Akaz, who's in Westminster, with more on this. Good morning to you, Amanda. So what's the government said?
Yes, there's two parts to this, really. So the first part is that the Lord Chancellor has asked the Law Commission to carry out this review of homicide laws, focusing, as you say, in cases around domestic abuse and violence against women, in particular focusing on issues around sentencing for murder. One aspect of this is about diminished responsibility. They'll be looking at how that is considered by judges when they're giving out sentences following campaigning from the families of the Nottingham attack victims. So Barnaby Webber, Grace O'Malley Kumar were killed by Valdo Calocane in June 2023, and he was sentenced to a hospital order for manslaughter on the basis of diminished responsibility. The families believe the law should have been changed around that. They want to see tighter sentencing. Also, the family of Joanna Simpson, who was battered to death by her husband as they were in the process of getting divorced. He was also sentenced on the basis of diminished responsibility. So this is something that the government say they have been listening to the families of victims about. They're also going to be looking at things like whether murders committed in the home are adequately punished. So, for example, if you take a knife to a public place and murder someone, then the minimum sentence is 25 years. If a knife is used in the home, then it's 15 years. And that's a change that has been brought in recent years. The government says it's kind of a piecemeal change to the law, that they want to look at these kind of little tweaks here and there that are made over the years in response to specific cases, and whether that's led to a slightly unbalanced approach to sentencing. We've got a quote here from the Lord Chancellor, Shabana Mahmood, and she says, as part of the government's plan for change, we're cracking down on violence against women and creating safer streets. I fully recognise the concerns raised around homicide law and sentencing, but these are incredibly complex issues. Previous tinkering is what led to the current disparities. It's right that the Law Commission takes a comprehensive look at it. Now, there's also another element to this. So she's announced that, although that's going to be a long-term project which will start early next year, in the short term, there are two specific changes to the sentencing guidelines that she's making, which are about looking at longer sentences for those people who are killed with strangulation. And the other one is about a killing that occurs at the end of a relationship. Now, this is a recommendation that was made by a KC called Claire Wade, who was commissioned by the previous government to look at some of these issues. And some of the recommendations she made, for example, around the rough sex offence, were brought in by the previous government, but these two recommendations weren't. And so the government say that they want to press ahead with that to better protect women and girls.